For decades, Western car companies saw China as the ultimate prize, a golden ticket. But what if that golden ticket was actually a ticket straight into a trap? We're going to break down how the very strategy they used to win in China might be the thing that ends up sinking them.
Okay, look at this number. 8 million. This single number, it should be sending a shiver down the spine of every single car executive from Detroit to Germany to Japan. So what is it? What does it mean?
That right there is how many cars China is on track to export in 2025. Now, to give you some perspective, just think back to 2020. That number was only 1 million. This isn't just growth, folks. This is an 8-fold explosion, an absolute explosion in just 5 years.
So the big question is, how on earth did this happen so fast? And maybe more importantly, how did the very companies now in the crosshairs, I'm talking GM, Ford, Volkswagen, how did they end up helping to create this monster that's now at their front door? Well, that's the story we're going to unpack.
All right, to really get what's happening now, we've got to rewind the clock. Let's go back to the 90s, back to the original deal that Western car makers struck to get a slice of that massive Chinese market. It was kind of like a devil's bargain, an offer you just couldn't refuse, but boy did it come with a price.
And this was the heart of it all, the 50-50 joint venture. The rules were super simple. You want to sell your cars in China? Fine, but you have to partner up with a state-owned Chinese company. You've got to share your tech, your know-how, and you split every single dollar of profit right down the middle, 50-50. And guess what? Everybody took the deal. GM, VW, Toyota, you name it, they signed on the dotted line.
But there was this one hard and fast rule, a red line they all swore they would never, ever cross. And that was exporting cars from China, from these joint ventures. The whole industry agreed. I mean, look at this quote from a VW exec. He called it suicidal. And it makes sense, right? Why would you let your partner in China build cars for your markets around the world and then just hand them half the profits? It was just unthinkable.
Well, then the unthinkable happened. That line in the sand they all swore they'd never cross, it got completely wiped away, and it all went down in one single, game-changing year, 2020.
It was like a perfect storm. First, Tesla's massive Shanghai factory fires up and just starts sucking all the oxygen out of the room, pulling Chinese buyers away from regular gas cars over to EVs. Then, boom, the pandemic hits, the world shuts down, and all of a sudden these huge joint venture factories are sitting on mountains of unsold cars. They had massive overcapacity. And suddenly, that suicidal idea of exporting, well, it didn't seem so crazy anymore. It became a lifeline, a desperate move to stop the bleeding.
And the fallout from that one panicked decision, well, it's playing out right now, and the scale is just staggering. The floodgates didn't just open, they were completely blown off their hinges.
I mean, just look at the raw numbers. It's wild. GM is shipping over 300,000 cars out of China. You see that shiny new Lincoln Nautilus on the road? Yep. That's made in China. BMW? They've turned China into the global hub for the electric Mini. This isn't some small trend. It's a massive shift in how cars are made. And remember, for every single one of those cars, half the profit goes straight to their Chinese partner.
So if you want a real-world example of how this is all playing out, you don't have to look far. Let's just look south to Mexico. It's really the canary in the coal mine. A perfect snapshot of how this whole dynamic is already turning against the Western brands.
Okay, so check out this loop. It's really something. Step 1, GM's partner in China, a company called SAIC. They build Chevrolet cars for GM. Step 2, they ship those Chevys down to Mexico to be sold. Step 3, GL and SAIC split the profits, 50-50. But, and here's the absolute kicker, SAIC also sells its own car brand MG in Mexico, competing directly with Chevy. And for those sales, they keep 100% of the profit. So they're getting paid to build GM's cars, and then there's getting paid again to beat them in the same market. SAIC basically wins twice.
So you see, this isn't really a partnership anymore, is it? It's a dependency, a huge one. Think about this. 4 out of the top 5 best-selling Chevy models in Mexico are now built in China by their partners. If those cars disappear, GM's presence in Mexico just vanishes. So, where does this all lead? What's the end game here? If this dependency just keeps getting deeper, what does that future look like? Well, it's a future that car executives in the West used to have nightmares about.
And let's be clear about something.
This is not just an EV story. That's a huge misconception. The reality, when you look at the numbers, is that a whopping 78% of the vehicles China exports are still good old-fashioned gas cars. They are coming to dominate both markets. And here's the crazy part. They're often doing it using the very factories that were originally built for their Western partners.
Really, it all boils down to two very different futures. In the past, a car company controlled everything. The brand, the marketing, the factories, the supply chain, the whole shebang. But in this potential new future, they're reduced to just being brand managers. They might own the logo on the front of the car, but they have zero control over how it's actually made or where the parts come from. They literally become brands without factories.
And when you lay it all out, the pattern is painfully obvious. It's a three-step process. First, you partner with them to get into their market. Next, you slowly become dependent on them to build cars for your own global markets. And the final step? Well, they just don't need you anymore. At that point, they can either buy your brand cheap, like Geely did with Volvo, or just push you out of the way and replace you.
Which brings us to the one final, chilling question in all of this. Maybe the question isn't if a major Western automaker is going to fall into this trap. Maybe the real question is, who's going to be the first to surrender?